And now to cap off the show, we're going to be reviewing Don't Worry, Darling. Now, there's so much that seems to be surrounding this movie. Everyone's talking about this, and there are multiple reasons as to why, both in and out of the film. The film follows a 1950s housewife living in an experimental utopian community and how she begins to unearth disturbing secrets about the town. The film stars Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, Olivia Wilde, and Chris Pine, and is directed by Olivia Wilde. Oh, man.
Woof.
Like I said, there's so much that seems to be surrounding this movie, but for now, at least for the time being, let's just stick with the movie itself. It's the story. There's... I feel like there were a lot of things that they were going for with the story that were interesting. There are definitely certain themes and undertones in there that I caught. But more so with the story, there were a lot of ideas there. Unfortunately, as interesting as the first two acts are, with how, again, the story moves and how it's executed, it's enough to keep my attention. I was definitely engaged. The problem is with certain reveals and certain twists and how, everything comes together, or really how everything doesn't come together at the end. That's where this movie falls apart. There was, again, just like there was how everything culminates in that last act or so, just didn't really work for me. And how there were so many things that they were trying to go for it that just didn't connect in the end. This movie felt very, very disjointed.
Yeah, it definitely, even for me, and, I was mentioning it to you, Joe, where, I think the first act I really liked. I was engaged, I was interested. And, throughout the film, you're just like, all right, where you don't really get a sense of where they're going just yet. And I think that was also a problem with the movie, where it felt like, all right, there is an idea, but the ideas just aren't. It's not stringing together coherently, and it really fell apart towards the end. Like you said, when it came to certain reveals and revelations and twists that made the even first two acts and the stuff beforehand even more questionable, because it felt like as if they kind of also broke their own rules and a certain rule set that they gave themselves. And that was established very early on, to the point where, again, that third act, to me, it really made the movie fall apart almost completely. And it felt like they were trying to... the third act felt very rushed. Very rushed into trying to pick up the pieces, or at least trying to put things together, but they're still unraveling everything. And it's just like, this felt very messily handled from, again, because it's like throughout the entire movie I was enjoying it, I was liking it, I liked some of the concept. I was like, all right, this is interesting, all right, I see where they might be possibly doing things, but then that third act, it was just like, what the hell is this?
Yep. And it's interesting because, again, the world that was built was interesting, and I thought that was cool. The problem is it didn't all make sense. I think if anything, I don't think this is so much this movie fails from a directing point of view, because there are a lot of scenes, again, I was interested, I was engaged throughout. There was a lot of great tension and great mystery that was felt, but the problem is, again, I think it's just more from a writing perspective too. That's where this movie fails. But sticking with the writing, there's, like I said, themes of themes and undertones. People have argued that this is very much a feminist movie, this is feminist propaganda, and I could definitely understand that argument. It didn't really feel quite like propaganda. It felt more like an undertone than anything. I didn't feel like it was smacking me over the head with any sort of thematic ideas, but that definitely feels like a sort of antithesis, or really criticism of the conformity of the 1950s and that sort of nostalgia that came along with it. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, some of the the undertones were definitely there. I didn't feel like, as you were mentioning, the whole feminism thing, I was like, I didn't really get that at all, really. That's just I just didn't get that. I just got a sense of, this is the story in the world that they crafted, and even certain comments I think the director made about the villain of the movie, I thought was very inaccurate too.
Yeah, let's dive into that for a quick second now. Of course, one of the players in this film is one and only Chris Pine. He does a great job. He gave my favorite performance in the entire film.
Oh yeah.
Olivia Wilde, for whatever reason, decided to talk out of her ass and really compare him to Jordan Peterson, I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, it's an interesting comparison. And I'm like, all right, am I, if I watch this film, am I really going to see it? So I was that's one of the reasons I saw this film too. I'm like, okay, as someone who's watched Jordan Peterson, a few Jordan Peterson clips here and there, does this really add up? Does this really make sense? And after watching this movie, Olivia Wilde was definitely talking out of her ass because I did not get any sort of Jordan Peterson vibes at all. And again, he was an interesting villain. Chris Pine gave a great performance, and that's about it. So again, I think it was one of those things where, like, again, Olivia Wilde just said that in order to just get more attention for herself and for the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially how his character, and again, this goes down to the revelations too at the end. His character, his motives are very different too. Like there's also, it's not necessarily what I didn't expect, but again, that comment of the whole Jordan Peterson thing, and then the certain actions that Chris Pine's character has made, especially towards the end, made me be like, not really. And then to the other degree of like, interesting they go in this direction with his character. I like it, but it just didn't do it for me, especially towards the end. Again, the ending for me was the biggest, like, for me, it went from, all right, cool, all right, okay, and it didn't go slowly down, it went straight down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really wanted it at least to be better. I think there are a lot of things going for it. I think the direction of it was very interesting. But it also, the writing just felt inconsistent, and especially, like I said, but yeah, I wish it was better. That's the thing. I really did wish it was better.
Yeah, I feel like this had a lot of potential. I was very intrigued, when I first saw the trailer, but it just fell flat in a lot of ways. I mean, performances were fine, but like I kept seeing the particular actors and actresses instead of the characters themselves. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Anytime that, I saw someone on screen, the characters didn't really feel super well developed. Again, the only one character-wise that I had any sort of interest in was really Chris Pine's character. That's really it. Again, Florence Pugh and Harry Styles. Florence Pugh was solid. Harry Styles was okay. Olivia Wilde, more or less in the same boat as the other two. Chris Pine, if you ask me, is a standout performance in this film. But this movie's well made too. But if anything, like before we really wrap this up, like I just wondered too, like, are the behind the scenes drama, is the behind the scenes drama that came along with this film more interesting than the film itself? You know what I mean? There's a lot of mystery there. There's like that alleged blowout argument on set between Florence Pugh and Olivia Wilde because, Florence Pugh allegedly got tired of Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde disappearing together from set.
Ooh.
The crew disputed. That's the thing. Now, the crew released a joint statement, really disputing that report of a blowout argument. But I don't necessarily believe that. Tempers flare on movie sets all the time. There's always a lot of drama. Got a lot of big egos clashing. A lot of people just like not knowing exactly what the fuck they're doing or forgetting like why they're there. There's that video of Harry Styles apparently spitting on Chris Pine. I'm thinking to myself like, is that really a thing? But then I watched the video. I'm like, it kind of looks like he kind of did, based on Chris Pine's reaction, like Harry Styles' movement overall. But so
oh boy,
there's just so much. There's just so much to unpack with this film. But I think we're just gonna leave it there. We're just gonna wrap it up from there. Maybe there are just certain cans of worms that just don't feel like that just don't deserve to be opened so much. For all of you, what are your thoughts on Don't Worry, Darling? And not just the film, but the spectacular behind the scenes drama as well. Leave your thoughts wherever it is that you can. And I just want to ask, it's really, really curious. Did you enjoy our review? If you did, I can't imagine why you wouldn't. But if you did, subscribe, hit the bell to get all notifications for more just like it. And just like that, that's all we have for you today. As we go throughout the next week, we'll be revealing exactly what it is that we're talking about for the next week after that. So stay tuned for that. And we'll see you all next week. Take care.